what does a city built for artists look like? We've done that. We have a city built for artists in so much as we understand the artist as being part of a speculative market driven by an individualized or identity-based studio practice in which said artist creates discrete objects that are bought and sold with the promise of an inflated return on the investment. This city is very much built on that consumer investment model. 2 days ago, over 50 people met at the Swiss Institute, another East Village art institution, to workshop creative solutions to the tenant and unaffordability crises. The talk took place inside of Soil Thornton's exhibition, Metabolizing Eviction, Try, Work _ MP3 and Other Games of Topping, and was part of my ongoing literary social practice, Hard to Read. Soil and I wanted to see what would happen when we brought artists into conversation with civic practitioners, people who work in finance, infrastructure, and community organizing. Among the people who spoke, whose views have been synthesized in this presentation are Bench Ansfield, a historian and the author of Born in Flames, The Business of Arson and the Remaking of the American City, Mark Norman, an urban planner with a finance background, currently at NYU, one of the largest private landowners in New York City, Betty Yu, an artist and member of the Chinatown Art Brigade, Cindy Wong of Art Against Displacement, writer and organizer Jamie Lauren Kales, Ariana Faye Allensworth, a member of the Anti-Eviction Mapping Project, Nico Kent, an undergraduate student, and the artists Cameron Rowland, Sol Thornton, Matt Hilvers, Leela Weinrob, Brontez Purnell, and me, Fiona Duncan. What does a city built for artists look like? What does a city built for artists provide? How can a city built for artists function? It's worth reiterating that we already have a city built for a certain type of artists. Art for profit is functioning as designed, just as housing for profit is functioning as designed, which is why the guidebook Abolish Rent proposes that we abandon the term housing crisis in favor of tenant crisis. Quote, framing the consequences of our housing system as a housing crisis ignores that from the perspective of its winners, the system works just fine. Housing isn't in crisis, tenants are. Vilches and Rosenthal, 2024. Are artists in crisis? Looking around my community, I would say yes and no. Great art is being made, but given inflation and other factors, even some institutionally validated artists are struggling to get by. That was a subtext of Josh Klein's much-cited article on real estate and art. Klein played the institutional market game, and it worked for him until recently. Not all of us want to play the game, or are capable of playing the game, or are welcome in the game as it is. The game has diminishing returns for intellectual it girls. Visibility rarely translates into financial or housing stability. We are in a fast art era, like fast fashion or fast food, a quantity over quality era. Artists, like fast food workers, become expendable. There are more artist-identified individuals making art than ever before in human history, perhaps. Likely. But how good is it? Does it have a public good? Will it be of historic relevance when looking back on our dramatic times? We love New York City. Artists thrive here in community. One thing we love about New York City is that it's walkable. Disneyland is now one of the last walkable cities in America, and people go into debt to visit it just for one day. As walkable as New York is, on our streets, cars have more space than pedestrians. Cars are isolated experiences, similar to the myth of the individual genius artist. Cars are a big business, gas and oil a war business. We have designed this city to privilege cars and war over people and the earth. What would it mean to redirect the land? A city built for artists is a city where time and space are radically redistributed and where the value of art is not just an exchange value. Reinvesting in social housing is vital. This is a municipal question, a federal question, a HUD question. There's obvious limitations to what's possible under the Trump regime, but other municipalities are embracing social housing in a way that Mamdani so far is not. Seattle has a social housing authority, which could be a model. Reinvesting in social housing, not just for artists, but for everybody. Look at Vienna. 60% of Vienna is social housing. That means the entire city is, in theory, affordable to everybody. Anti-gentrification discourse needs to stop pitting artists and art workers against local communities. Artists are the Trojan horse that real estate developers use. They then become a scapegoat. Artists and local communities can work together. Here's a Band-Aid proposal for the art world to consider. When art institutions are built and expanded upon, say, at an Amont, Cara, or New Museum, why isn't affordable intergenerational housing also built into it? Housing for all, not just for artists. Artists do best when living and working with people who do all kinds of work. It's great to work. Many of us would like to be put to work. The cost of housing in the city is not the only issue. It's the K-shaped economy where a small segment of the population thrives while others fall further behind. Could there be more work programs for artists, embedding them throughout society, doing all kinds of labor, physical, cognitive, creative planning? Is wealth redistribution possible? There is a fight right now to counter the world's tallest jail, the jail scraper that's being built in Chinatown near City Hall. One request from organizers is for artists to reject commissions from the jail. Why is such a high fee offered for art commissions in this jail? What other opportunities could we offer? Can that jail be redesignated as affordable housing? If we want to counter the cultural matrix that rewards creatives' complicity in war, genocide, the carceral system, and labor exploitation, if we as artists want to do more than be a tax incentive write-off, we need to create new cultural institutions, collectives, and values. This involves disentangling ourselves from the prestige validation coming from complicitous institutions, including social media, where quantity is valued over quality. Rage bait and inanity get clicks. That Mamdani is going on Throwing Fits podcast before he's talking to Cameron Rowland is a problem. We need to regulate big tech and social media. Our creativity is exploited there, our time wasted. We have a different regime of accumulation across the globe than we did in the 1970s. Something really massive has changed since the Knicks last won the championship. In the US, the economy is not based on production anymore so much as it's based on asset price inflation. And that means real estate, the financial world, big tech. It also means works of art. The rise of financialization happened on the heels of major legal and legislative victories of the various civil rights movements. What does that coincidence tell us about racial and gendered capitalism? Insurance plays a role I'd like to get into more, but we don't have time. Maybe ask me later about James Turrell and Jade Kariki Olivo, aka Puppies, and questions of insurance liability and how artists are forced to accept risks that institutions refuse to take on or take responsibility for. Health insurance, the health finance system, is a related problem. I would say it again, but I'm short on time. I'm also short. Okay, some questions to consider before I end. If ancient Greece is the model for democracy and 1/3 of ancient Greeks were enslaved, then is slavery a necessary part of democracy? How can you have a political democracy inside of an economic autocracy? Why is school funding still tied to real estate taxes? Can mortgage rates be lowered? What would need to change for support to be given to artistic practices like Hard to Read, which produce almost zero objects, working rather with different groups to create experiences, knowledge, gossip, stories, and relationships? Is that art of value? When housing is affordable, no one gives a fuck if their art is monetarily valuable or prestigious. Great artists will continue to make great art in any system, under any regime or occupation or ivory tower, whether only 3 people experience it or if masses get to. Of the people we gathered on Sunday, and of the people who Hard to Read has worked with, hundreds of the smartest and most creative living thinkers, artists, and activists, only some of us are institutionally embraced, while others labor in relative obscurity. And almost none of us are being instrumentalized or being invited to participate at the city level, the government level, or the institutional level in terms of decision-making or leadership. Many of us are willing. Thank you for this time, and thank you for the bisexual lighting. Happy Pride.